Hi, Keith here from Academy of Bass. Thanks for joining me. Every bass player uses open strings, and for good reason, because they sound great. But there are lots of different ways of using them, and I'm going to look at them in this lesson. I'm also going to show you some really nice bass line ideas that you can use in your playing too. Some of the things that we're going to be playing are going to be really simple and easy to play. Others a little bit more challenging, but either way, there's something to suit you, whatever your level of ability is. So the open strings, E, A, D and G. The easiest way to use open strings is to simply hang on to one and pound it out. And there are tons of iconic bass lines that do just that, but there are lots of other different ways that we can use them. So I'm going to start by showing you this. So I'm playing D here at the 5th fret of the A string, hammering onto E at the 7th, and then playing open E. That open E is an octave lower than the E that I was fretting, and that's going to make all the difference when we start to use this in the bass line. We can also play this. So this time I've got G at the 5th fret of the D string, hammering onto A at the 7th, and then open A. And then finally we've got this. So this time we've got C at the 5th fret of the G string, hammering onto D at the 7th, and open D. The next thing we can do is this. So this time I'm playing open G and fretting G at the 5th fret of the D string. So we've got the same note here at exactly the same pitch, but they sound different. We can also play open D and fret D at the 5th fret of the A string, or play open A and fret A at the 5th fret of the E string. I really like this. You don't hear it nearly enough in bass lines. The next thing that I'm going to do is just add an octave to this. So now we've got open G, G at the 5th fret of the D string, and G an octave lower at the 3rd fret of the E string. We can do the same from D. So now we've got D at the 7th fret of the G string, open D, and D at the 5th fret of the A string. And we can play it from A. So I'm starting from A at the 7th fret of the D string, open A, and A at the 5th fret of the E string. Now before I get into looking at bass lines, there's a completely free PDF for this lesson. I'll post a link to it below. It's got everything in that I'm going to be playing notated in both standard notation and tab, and I'll be using a bunch of different backing tracks, so I'll include them all as part of that download. Make sure you grab a copy. If you enjoy the lesson, don't forget to give me a shout out and let me know in the comments. It's always really nice to hear from you, and feel free to like the video and support what I'm doing here by subscribing to the channel. The first technique I looked at using the hammer on is fairly self-explanatory, and in some respects it's quite a natural thing to play, and even if you're a relative beginner, the chances are you've played that or something similar. So I'm going to use that technique in a bass line now. That was really simple, it sounded good, and it was very similar to lots of great rock bass lines. So I played G at the 5th fret of the D string, hammered onto A at the 7th, and then played open A, and I kept playing the open A on the offbeat. Now I'm using a hammer on there. You could pick every note. I changed the rhythm there, or you could play the whole line in reverse, starting from open A, and then jump to A at the 7th fret of the D string, and then G at the 5th fret. And you could pick them, change the rhythm, or you could use a pull off. So here I'm pulling off from A to G. I quite like that. So let's hear what they sound like in context. That was simple too. It was different from the first variation that I played, but it sounded good. I'm going to move on now to the second technique that I showed you at the beginning of this lesson, where I played an open string and then fretted a note at the same pitch, and I'm going to use this in a bass line now. This is my absolute favourite. I just really like the difference in the sound between the open string and the fretted note, and it gives us a lot to play with, even though we're just playing one note, because they're both the same note at the same pitch. This is what I played. So I played open G, G at the 5th fret of the D string, then I played open D and D at the 5th fret of the A string. So we've got this repeating motif. Then I played F at the 3rd fret of the D string, G at the 5th fret, and finished off with G twice at the 3rd fret of the E string. Essentially all we're playing here is G twice and D twice, but if I play the bass line like that, for me it doesn't quite sound the same. Now earlier on I did say you could also add an octave to this. By the way, this is something that I use all the time. If I'm playing something that needs a little bit of power, I'll play this G octave and then hit an open G string, and that just gives me a little bit of weight to the sound. So before I played open G, G at the 5th fret of the D string, and then G at the 3rd fret of the E string. Then it was D and A. So I'm going to use this in a bass line now. I didn't play a lot of rhythm there, I kept it fairly simple. But there are lots of different ways that we could make that sound more interesting. We could apply some rhythm. Or we could play one in a different direction. So this time I'm playing the A ascending and playing the root, the open string, and then the octave. And when you play fingerstyle, it's difficult to play a root, then play an open string and an octave and allow them to ring out. So I chose to play the root, detach to play the open string, and then play the octave. And you could apply a bit of rhythm to that too. So I'm going to play that in a bass line now. Playing open strings can appear deceptively easy, but it sometimes requires a little bit of thought and a little bit of effort to try and come up with creative ways of playing them. Sticking with the octaves, I'm going to show you a couple of more ways of playing octaves. So this time I'm starting from the 12th fret of the G string, playing G, and I'm going to pull that off to play open G, which is an octave lower. Then I'm going to fret G at the 5th fret of the D string. Now that's the same pitch as the open string. Going to do the same with D, 12th fret of the D string, pull off and play D at the 5th fret of the A string, and the same with A, 12th fret of the A string, pull off and then play A at the 5th fret of the E string. Quite like the sound of that. Now you could just pluck every note, and that's fine, not my particular favourite. Or you could do something like this. So this time I'm playing a little slide before I pull off. That just gives a different character to the line. Before I show you how I like to use open strings, here's one more quick idea, and it uses double open strings. I'm playing over an E chord this time, and I started off by playing an open D string, then it was an open A string, and then it was D at the 5th fret of the A string, hammered onto E at the 7th fret, then it was 2 open E strings. From there I played an open A, I played it a little bit more percussively though, then it was E at the 7th fret of the A string, G at the 5th fret of the D string, and then back to E. And I really like that double-barreled open string. But now on to the very last bass line. I'm playing over an A minor chord here, and I started off by playing an A minor chord arpeggio, up an A, then I slid into E, which is the 5th of the chord at the 9th fret of the G string, then it's C, the flattened 3rd of the chord at the 10th fret of the D string. And I like that spread of notes. From there it was, so it's D at the 12th fret of the D string, hammered on to E at the 14th fret, G at the 12th fret of the G string, another G, and then hammered on to A at the 14th fret. Then it was a muted D string and a muted A string, and then I played this same motif again from the 5th and 7th fret of the A string and the 5th and 7th fret of the D string. Then I finished off by playing this, and this is my favourite part of the line. So I'm playing open A to E at the 7th fret of the A string, pulling off onto open A, then it's open D and C at the 3rd fret of the A string. Now I could play that a little bit differently. Could play A, E, pull off onto A and fret the D at the 5th fret of the A string. But for me, the open strings got much more about it. Open strings give you a very different sound to fretted notes. The possibilities in terms of ideas that you've got to use in your bass lines are absolutely endless, but they sound great whether they're played simply or whether they're used much more creatively. I really do hope that you've enjoyed this lesson. If you have, give me a shout out and let me know in the comments. Don't forget to grab the PDF, the link to that is posted below, and feel free to like the video and support the channel by subscribing. Thanks for joining me, look forward to seeing you again, and in the meantime, happy practicing.